That's why I opted to go first. And I just wanted to recognize Representative Celeste is here with us as well from the House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as always, Representative Antonio and Senator Turner are both verbose and articulate, so it's always a tough act to follow. I serve as the ranking member on the Senate Health, Human Services, and Aging Committee. And I also am proud to be the Senate sponsor of Representative Antonio's bill in the House, the Prevention First bill. And I want to start my remarks there, because if the real and true objective is to reduce the number of unplanned and unwanted pregnancies, the best way that we can achieve that goal is by providing our young people with comprehensive, medically accurate sexual education. That is step one, making sure that individuals have the appropriate information to make responsible choices, and that is the first line of defense when you want to reduce the number of unintended pregnancies. So I've been extraordinarily disappointed. I've been in office for almost 6 years. I'm the third person in the Senate to carry this bill. Current Representative Fetter, former Senator Morano, and now myself have all carried the Prevention First bill in multiple General Assemblies now, and we've never really gotten past sponsor testimony. And so that's very disappointing, because I believe if members of the General Assembly truly want to achieve a reduction in abortions and make that less of a potential option, then we really need to get serious about passing our Prevention First legislation, either in the Senate or the House. I don't care whose name is on this bill. That has nothing to do with it. It's the right thing to do. Very briefly, to echo some of the sentiments of both Representative Antonio and Senator Turner, as it pertains to our individual freedoms and small government. You may have recalled that the state of Mississippi actually tried to pass a constitutional amendment in their state to implement personhood at the constitutional level, very similarly to what we're trying to do within the statute here in the state of Ohio. The voters of Mississippi summarily denounced and rejected this personhood amendment. And I think it would be difficult to argue that the state of Mississippi is perceived as a very, very conservative state, one that has consistently leaned red for decades. And the fact that the individuals in the state of Mississippi rejected the personhood amendment, I think, shows something about the validity of this personhood agenda. We heard Senator Turner talk about the 14th Amendment. The potential constitutional precedent set of providing 14th Amendment rights to property to the unborn is a significant constitutional debate, and one that no one should take lightly. Forget, pro-choice and pro-life aside. If you care about the Constitution and its implications, you need to look very, very closely about the implications, the constitutional implications, and the application of the 14th Amendment. Small government. Both of these women had talked a little bit about the assertion of members of the GOP and others regarding small government. It seems that it's about small government when it fits their objectives. I will give Gary Johnson credit, the Libertarian candidate for president and former New Mexico governor, I believe, that did actually adhere to his positions on small government and did assert himself as a pro-choice individual. Much like myself, Gary Johnson believes that government doesn't have any place in someone's body or someone's bedroom, and that's the way it should be. And so again, if you're going to assert the position of small government, it should be consistent and based in true academic value, not in some kind of multiple choice application that it seems that members of the Republican Party like to deal with. Finally, as it pertains to the defunding of Planned Parenthood, it is critically important to remember the work, and we've again heard this from the representatives from Planned Parenthood as well as my colleagues in the General Assembly. The work of Planned Parenthood is not confined to just one service. They provide prenatal care, preventative services, cancer screenings, And I can tell you two sort of personal stories. I'm in the process, and I'm almost going to graduate in my master's in social work, and at home, I am doing my field placement at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center, obviously a Catholic facility, very close to my district. And so for the first year that I was doing my field placement, I was based in the NICU and in the maternity wards. And oftentimes when they called in the social workers for intervention, it's because these women did not have prenatal care access, because they did not believe or understand that there were actual options for affordable prenatal care. So here you have pregnant women whom are not, they have a barrier to care. If some of a place like Planned Parenthood goes away, those women and their unborn children will become at risk because they do not have the appropriate prenatal care. And what happens is you have premature births. You spend, multiple weeks in the NICU. You potentially could have a child that is born premature and has respiratory illnesses and the like. So having access to affordable prenatal care is not just a women's issue or a democratic issue. It's a family issue, and it's a real issue that impacts real people. And I'll just close with this to get really personal. We need to remember that birth control isn't just about birth control. It is also about women's health. About 5.5 years ago, I actually had a uterine cancer scare, and some of you actually were with me and knew about this at the time. I had to get an IUD in order to control that situation. And so, yes, it is birth control, but it cost me $700 to keep my uterine fibroids in check so I could preserve my ability to have a childbearing ability. Now, I was able to afford that $700 for this IUD in order to deal with this uterine fibroid issue, but not everybody does, and that's why we can't defund Planned Parenthood, because women's lives are also on the line, and people should not be, their health should not be picked and choose just because what they can afford and what they can't afford. So I'm sure that's TMI, but in all honesty, people need to realize that these are real health issues. And not just because, people want birth control, which there's nothing wrong with. But that's not what this is about. And I think that's a reflection of maybe how little sometimes our male colleagues understand about how we function. So that's really all I have to say. And I'll just turn it back over to whomever for questions.